In part D, we will discuss how we can measure the work capacity of a person. So learning objectives are to make you understand how different physiological measures of work capacity are used. And we will focus on two. One is VO2 max, or maximum volume of oxygen uptake, and heartbeats per minute. And there are some variants of these two methods, and there are some other methods available as well, so you can refer to the books for those. And we will finally discuss different factors that can affect the work capacity of an individual. So one of the measures is maximum oxygen uptake, or VO2 max. So V is for volume, O2 is oxygen, and max stands for maximum. So maximum volume of oxygen that someone can take. So VO2 max is the maximum capacity of the heart and lungs to deliver oxygen to the working muscles. So that is the maximum capacity of your cardiovascular and respiratory system to deliver oxygen to the muscles. During physical work, heart rate and oxygen consumption increase as workload increases. So this is something we have already discussed. As the nature of task becomes heavier, the heart rate and oxygen consumption both increase. But they cannot increase indefinitely. There is an upper limit. So as workload further increases, a limit is reached at which the heart cannot beat faster and the cardiovascular system cannot supply oxygen at a faster rate to meet the increasing energy demands of the work. So this is the point that the person has reached his or her VO2 max, that is also called aerobic capacity. Max or aerobic capacity. Now, practically, it is difficult to measure the VO2 max or aerobic capacity of a person. So there is some instrument just shown in the figure. So you can actually use this instrument for experimental purposes or in physical simulation of the task. But practically, during actual performance of the task, it is difficult to use it because it intrudes, it causes some disturbance in performing the task. So just like you might have seen in hospitals that there is sort of some bag that is actually not shown in the figure, but instrument is sort of attached to the nose and mouth of this person. So he inhales and exhales, so that bags contains the oxygen, and the difference is actually seen between the original amount and the one that is used, and some simple calculations are made to find how much is the maximum capacity of this person. So it can be used, but under simulated conditions. So for example, suppose that two workers have VO2 max values of 6 liters and 2 liters of oxygen per minute. So VO2 max is measured in liter of oxygen per minute. So this is just an ergonomic implication of this measure of work capacity, that is VO2 max. The task requires 2 liters of oxygen per minute. The first worker having a VO2 max of 6 liters will have a greater work capacity because he will be able to work comfortably all day at only 33% of his VO2 max or aerobic capacity, because required for the task is 2 liters and his capacity is 6 liters. So he requires just 33% of his VO2 max. His energy will be met by oxygen dependent processes. That is, aerobic metabolisms, which means that he will be able to work in a physiologically steady state and obtain energy from the oxidation of fat as well as from carbohydrates. Recalling that oxygen is required to metabolize fat in the mitochondria. The second worker, who has aerobic capacity of 2 liters of oxygen per minute, will be required to work at 100% of VO2 max and will tend to utilize oxygen independent processes or anaerobic processes. He will only be able to work for short periods and will require frequent rest breaks to metabolize the accumulated metabolic waste products, that is, for example, lactic acid. He will also be dependent on carbohydrates as a source of fuel, because carbohydrate is the fastest source of fuel out of the three sources, that is carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So he will more be dependent upon carbohydrates. So he will tire earlier, he will feel fatigue, and he will require rest breaks as compared to the first one. So as the requirement of oxygen for a task increases, so the duration must be decreased. So if the work demand is 10% of VO2 max, so say a person can work for greater than 12 hours. As this demand increases, so duration must be decreased. So for 30% of VO2 max, the duration should be reduced to 11 hours. For 40%, it must be reduced to 5.5 hours. And for a task that requires VO2 max, that requires oxygen, that is 60% of VO2 max, 1.33 hours must be the maximum work duration, and so on. And if some task requires 90% of the aerobic capacity, then task must not exceed 9 minutes in a continuum, and there must be a rest break to restart that task. The general rule of thumb is, as the relative workload in terms of oxygen requirement increases, that person needs more heavy breathing because more oxygen is required. So again, everything that we have discussed, anaerobic metabolism, accumulation of waste products, so everything will happen. So correspondingly, that person will need lesser duration of task, more rest, and maybe more nutrients, water, liquid, etc. as well. Another measure of work capacity is heart rate, and it is easier to measure than oxygen consumption, as we saw that some heavy equipment is required to measure the VO2 max, and practically that includes the physical work. So heart rate increases as a function of workload, just similar to oxygen uptake. And this is something we have seen repeatedly now, that both these, the heart rate as well as the oxygen uptake, or the cardiovascular as well as respiratory system, increase as the physical demand increases. So heart rate is often used as an indirect measurement of energy expenditure. So we can measure the heart rate using some instruments, of course, but for some reasons, if we don't have or can't use instruments, so this is a simple formula that heart rate, maximum heart rate of a person is 220 minus age. So for example, if someone is 40 years of age, so his maximum heart rate will be 180. And you can find similar formulas. So instead of, for example, 220, you might have 200 minus 0.65 of age. So these are empirical formulas that you can use to find approximate values of maximum heart rate. So that is actually heartbeats per minute. So once we are talking about heart rate, that is actually beats per minute. So there is a similar term, that is heart rate reserve, that is maximum heart rate minus heart rate at resting. So for example, if someone has maximum heart rate of 180 and at rest his heart rate in terms of beats per minute is 80, so HR reserve, heart rate reserve will be 100 beats per minute. And we can convert into percentage, so that is heart rate for activity minus heart rate of resting divided by heart rate reserve, that is this thing. And that is in the denominator. So for example, if an activity requires, say, for example, 120 beats per minute and resting heartbeats are, say, 80, and for example, this HR reserve, as we saw, is the difference of maximum and resting. So maximum is say 180 and resting is 80, so that will be 40 over 100. So that is 40%. I hope the calculations are correct. So if activity requires 120 beats per minute and resting heart rate is 80 beats per minute and maximum is 180, so that will be 40%. So that activity actually is utilizing 40% of the capacity of that person. So that person has a capacity of, say, 100%. So out of that, 40% is being utilized. So you can find similar formulas from the books as well. So this figure is relating the two concepts that we have seen. One is related to VO2 max, your respiratory system, heart rates, your blood circulatory system. So this is very obvious that light work requires less VO2 max, so less heartbeats per minute. So of course, less energy. If the intensity of job increases, so does the oxygen requirement, and of course the heartbeats per minute, because energy requirements has increased. It is in kilojoules per minute in this case. So the heavier the task, more are the physical requirements, so more is the oxygen required, as well as the heartbeats are greater, and of course for extreme situations these two will have the extreme values as well. So something that we have seen in terms of text, in terms of discussion, is shown in terms of numbers here. The same concept can be shown with the help of a graph. So as the intensity of job increases from resting to light to moderate to heavy to very heavy, so does the energy requirement increase, so does heart rate in beats per minute, and so does oxygen consumption in liters per minute. So this is a linear relationship, and now we have seen it in different ways. So heavier the task, greater the energy required. So in order to meet up with those energy requirements, the heart beats and your respiratory system will work harder to meet up that energy demand. So maximum physical work capacity as percent of aerobic capacity, VO2 max. So greater is this requirement, lesser will be the time, or of course you can say lesser will be the capacity, and as this requirement decreases, the capacity will also increase. So if you, as this is exactly the same thing that we saw in the form of a table in one of the previous slides, this thing. So the same thing is shown in the form of graph here. So if lesser is the requirement of oxygen, you can work for longer period. So something that we have seen in these graphs and tables is that greater is the energy requirement for a task, greater will be the required oxygen and heart rate. So If that is the case, I mean, if you are talking about this heavy work where more oxygen heartbeats are required, so rest periods become mandatory. So commonly in industry, rest breaks are usually included in allowance factor built into the studied time study, if you recall in your fifth semester. So one of the allowances to find the standard time was a basic fatigue allowance. And there was an allowance factor for fatigue related to the job as well. So relatively short duration, say 5 to 20 minutes of breaks are required when energy expenditure rates are less than or equal to the recommended values. So that recommended value is 5 kilocalories per minute for male and 4 kilocalories per minute for females. When energy expenditure rates are greater than the recommended values, longer rest period must be provided to allow the body to recover from fatigue. So as we saw in one of the ergonomic assessment tools in previous lectures, that greater is the duration of exertions or greater is the frequency of exertions, greater will be the recovery time. So one very good rule of thumb is that periodic short breaks are better than one long break. So instead of giving workers say 5 minutes break, it is generally better to, for example, give them 2 breaks, one of 15 minutes, other of 30 minutes, or maybe 3 breaks of 15 minutes each. So especially for physically demanding tasks, see these short breaks of smaller duration are better than one long break. We will briefly see some factors affecting the work capacity, but I would reiterate that other than heart rate and VO2 max, other measures of work capacity are also there. And apart from these direct measures, we can indirectly see one of the factors that can affect the capacity is the body weight. So body weight, particularly the percentage of the body tissue that is composed of fat, influences all activities in which the worker has to move his own body. It is more meaningful to express VO2 max in relative terms by expressing a person's oxygen consumption in terms of their body weight. So not just simple measure of VO2 max, but relative VO2 max, that is VO2 max with respect to the weight of the person. So generally, the leaner the person, for example, in case of running, will be at an advantage over his plumper or heavier level, all other things being equal. So in this sense, it is possible to increase one's relative VO2 max by shedding excess kilograms of fat. So VO2 max can be increased by shedding the excess fat, or we will see that it can be increased through training as well. So it is obvious that VO2 max declines gradually as someone ages. A 60-year-old has an aerobic capacity of about 70% of a 25-year-old due to a reduction in cardiac output. So heart muscles become weak, so lungs become weak. So as a whole, the work capacity decreases. Gender, women have less hemoglobin than men. The cardiac output per liter of oxygen uptake is higher in women than in men. So we can say that the heart must therefore pump more oxygenated blood than for a man. So for a woman, the heart must pump more oxygenated blood than a man in order to deliver 1 liter of oxygen to the tissues. So that is why there is higher allowance for fatigue for females than for males. And heavy physical tasks are generally not recommended for females. Tobacco smoking is another factor that can affect the work capacity. So tobacco smoke contains about 4% by volume carbon monoxide, that is CO. So carbon monoxide has an affinity or attraction for hemoglobin, and it forms carboxyhemoglobin after combining with hemoglobin. So smoking therefore reduces work capacity by reducing the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. And it also causes chronic damage to the respiratory system, which impairs the ventilation of the lungs and the transfer of oxygen from the air to the blood. Training can increase the work capacity. It can strengthen particular parts of the musculoskeletal system with the goal of improving performance or preventing injury. Over a period of several months, the muscle fibers increase in size owing to an increase in the number of myofibrils, that is the part of the muscle, and an increase in strength is observed. So one factor that is not physical, that is motivation, can also impact the work capacity. It may be noted that a worker's level of motivation may be affected by intrinsic factors such as personality, personal and career goals, need for achievement at work, and so on, as well as extrinsic factors such as work organization, method of remuneration, and the availability of alternate forms of employment, overall working culture, the behavior of the colleagues, the supervisor. They can also impact the motivation and eventually the work capacity. Finally, noise is a stressor that can elevate the heart rate and reduce cardiac efficiency. So we will see in the discussion on noise that noise can actually increase the heart rate and it can affect the work capacity. So these were few of the factors that can affect the work capacity. There are many others. You can refer to your textbook for those. So in this segment, we discussed two physiological measures of capacity: maximum volume of oxygen uptake and heartbeats per minute. But blood pressure, for example, can also be used. And these two measures can be used in combination as well. And we will see that there are some indirect measures other than these two as well. So we can use survey, for example, we can use some calculations. So we will discuss two methods, the BOD scale and muscle fatigue analysis in the following lecture. So they can be used to measure the fatigue or tiredness of a person as well. Static muscular activities involve anaerobic metabolism, dynamic involve aerobic, and hence the associated pros and cons were also discussed. As the demand of oxygen uptake for a task increases, so does the energy demand. The duration of that task must be decreased accordingly, or longer rest breaks must be provided. Individuals vary in their capacity to perform work based on differences in capacity of cardiovascular and respiratory systems to deliver required fuel and oxygen to muscles and carry away waste products, muscle strength and endurance, ability to maintain proper heat balance within the body, age, gender, and so on. So these and some other factors do impact the work capacity of an individual. In the following lecture, we will discuss two ergonomic assessment tools for measuring the fatigue or effort required to perform a task. Thank you.